5 things you should know ahead of Premier League Game Week 26. With all teams in action, including a blockbuster Manchester derby, here are 5 things you should know ahead of what promises to be a thrilling game week. The Premier League season has not let us down so far, and with another set of fixtures just one day away, we take a look at the 5 things you need to know ahead of this weekend. Guardiola without Grealish ahead of Sunday's Manchester derby. Manchester City were hoping to have a full squad at their disposal ahead of Sunday's home clash with fierce rivals Manchester United, but the citizens received unfortunate news about the availability over star winger Jack Grealish. Manager Pep Guardiola confirmed that the Englishman had suffered a groin problem, meaning he joins Josko Gvardiol on the sidelines for this fierce rivalry. However, with the timely return of league top scorer Erling Haaland, City enter the fixture as favourites for the clash at the Etihad, especially since United still miss a couple of key men. Rasmus Hojlund, who had managed to score for 6 matches in a row, will miss the derby with a muscle injury, whilst Lisandro Martinez and Mason Mount still remain unavailable due to injury. Due to the lack of players, youngster Omari Forson was given his first start against Fulham, where the Red Devils lost 2-1 at Old Trafford, displaying the lack of depth that manager Erik ten Hag has available. However, with star players like Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro still available, ten Hag will be hoping that they step up to try and obtain a shock win on Sunday evening. Whatever happens, this game promises to be an absolute thriller, as the Manchester derby rarely disappoints in the Premier League. Both teams still have the title and European football to fight for, meaning the stakes are extremely high for both clubs. Klopp's kids have to recover from cup hangover with trip to Nottingham. Liverpool received huge acclaim last Sunday when they defeated Chelsea on penalties to win their 9th League Cup, despite having an extremely depleted squad. Out of the 17 players who featured at Wembley, 6 were under the age of 20, with Connor Bradley making just his 17th appearance for the club, starting in place of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Even more praise was received on Wednesday, as 18-year-old forwards Lewis Kumas and Jadon Danns scoring their first goals for the clubs, making their way into the top 10 youngest goal scorers for the club. Manager Jurgen Klopp was surprised they managed to field a squad, as they defeated Championship side Southampton 3-0. However, they face a proper test, as they travel to the City ground to take on relegation-threatened Nottingham Forest. Nuno Espirito Santo's side find themselves just 4 points ahead of the drop, and will be hoping to exploit the inexperience of the Liverpool squad to make their chances of staying up more likely. With Liverpool not expecting any returnees, and Forest strengthening with the return of former Anfield prospect Taiwo Ionawi, Santo's men will hope that a victory is on the cards. However, Klopp's kids will be desperate to make their mark in the Premier League, setting up what looks to be an exacting fixture. Pochettino under pressure as they look to avoid another sting by Brentford. On the other end of the Carabao clash was Chelsea. Many spectators expected Chelsea to be lifting the trophy, but a poor attacking display left many fans wondering what could have been. As a result, manager Mauricio Pochettino now finds himself under severe pressure, as the Blues find themselves in 11th place this season, not threatening the European places. With the club traveling to Brentford on Saturday afternoon, Pochettino should be desperate for a victory to start developing some consistency and try and salvage this season. Despite spending over $400 million in the summer, Chelsea have lost the same amount as they have won this season, and had to rely on a last-minute goal from Conor Gallagher to avoid a scare against Championship side Leeds in the FA Cup, winning 3-2. Brentford, under manager Thomas Frank, will also be looking to bounce back after a disappointing 4-2 defeat to West Ham on Monday night. The Bees have now lost 3 in a row, and despite it seeming unlikely, relegation could threaten the North London side, as they sit just 5 points above the drop. With the anticipated return of Ivan Toney and French striker Neil Maupay with 4 goals in 7 games, Brentford will hope to provide a lethal sting to Chelsea's season, to push them away from the drop and closer to mid-table. On the other hand, Pochettino will be desperate for victory at the GTEC Community Stadium to alleviate the pressure off himself and his squad. Glasner faces first test against Postecoglou's thrilling whilst their title ambitions are off the cards. There is no doubt that Ange Postecoglou's first season has been remarkable. Champions League football is still possible, and this fixture against Crystal Palace is a prime opportunity to take 3 extra points to push for the top 4. However, the Australian coach confirmed that Brazilian striker Richarlison will miss the next 2 weeks with a knee injury. Richarlison has returned to his best form, with 10 goals this season, so this will be a big miss for Tottenham, especially since they have to face a rejuvenated Crystal Palace side under new management. Austrian coach Oliver Glasner was appointed over 2 weeks ago, and his first match resulted in a dominant 3-0 victory over relegation-threatened Burnley. Employing a new tactic, Glasner will want a victory over Spurs to show the Premier League what he can do this season, and in years to come at Selhurst Park. The Eagles continue to be without star players Eberechi Eze, Michael Ollis and Sheikh Dakor, meaning we are unlikely to see the best of Palace on Saturday. However, last week's performance will mean Tottenham will have to avoid any complacency in order to seal a victory on home turf. You can find an introduction and analysis on Oliver Glasner here on weekThe. Everton have adjusted season expectations after reduction to the Deschon Dyche must have been the most relieved man this week, as they received a timely boost to their survival hopes. After an early season 10-point deduction, a successful appeal meant Everton rocketed out of the relegation zone and house sit at a healthy distance from the drop in 15th. They take on a West Ham side that, despite initial pressure on manager David Moyes' future, sit in 8th place and could contend for a second successive season in Europe. Their 4-2 victory over Brentford saw an excellent hat-trick from striker Jared Bowen, who will look to continue his red-hot form as he searches for a playing ticket to the European Championships this summer. Neither team has any significant injury worries, meaning that both teams are likely to name full-strength sides, in an attempt to take 3 points that could benefit each team's aims this season, whether they be avoiding relegation or fighting for continental football. Deduction.